Today is day 1 of 6 back-to-back jig build videos. Yes, you heard me right. 6 videos in 6 days. Yep, that's right. 6 videos in 6 days. Not kidding. It's going to be a busy week. Hopefully you guys are looking forward to a bit of an onslaught of content this week. The jig of choice is going to be my SDG Signature Hybrid Z. For those that have been around the channel for a while, you may remember, if you've seen the very beginning, I've tied these up, or at least the first versions of them, on the channel before. Matter of fact, the first build video on this entire channel, 45 minutes long, of me tying up one jig. It's a little brutal. That was a Hybrid Z. Almost all of them have 2 things in common, both of which you can find from Barlow's. I have just fallen in love with this material. That is striped silicone and metallic foil silicone. So enough chit chat, let's dive into the first one, a little something I call Crawblaze. So in the vise we've got a 1/2 ounce trocar pitching jig. The color here is Pale Ale. It's a color made by Boss. I'm going to be using 210 denier flat wax nylon in dark brown today. Let's get a thread base started on this guy. I'm going to start on the back part of the collar for all of these builds, because the first thing we're going to put on are our rabbit zonker claws. For Crawblaze, our claws are a bright orange. Love this stuff. About 3 inches long. I find that that is the perfect length to pair up with a 1/2 ounce head. So get that in there. Just like that. And then before I go on, we are actually going to cover up all of these, all of that rabbit zonker there. Can't see that anymore. And then we're going to whip finish right here. Little added security never hurt anybody. So 1, 2, 3. There's 4 for a whip finish there. No need to cut. We'll just continue on and create a little thread base now on the main collar. We'll flip it over, a little easier to deal with. This is our first striped silicone. It's an orange brown, but it's got some glitter and flake in it. It's absolutely gorgeous. Love this stuff. That is a full tab of it. The exact name will be in the description if you want to go find some of your own. We're going to put that bad boy on nice and loose, flip it over, make sure that it's even on the back. That looks like it's good. And then we'll just push this around. Beautiful, nice and evenly distributed. Go ahead and hold. I like to hold it as I lock it down just so it doesn't spin on me. Sometimes it can do that and create a little gap. So that's good. Next layer is the metallic foil, and this is I believe it's brown with orange flake. Beautiful stuff. Now on this one you've got options. I'm going to go ahead and put it on as a full tab. You could, if you wanted to, cut it in half and put it on the top half first and then the bottom half, flip it over and do the bottom half. It's a little bit easier at times to work with it that way, but if you take your time and kind of go slow, pinch, pull, you can keep it all together and it'll work just fine. The bottom part here is always the spot where it doesn't want to meet up, so just be mindful of that however you want to do it. Make sure that they're about even, which they are. And if that looks good, which that does to me, again, hold it and pinch. Make sure you're not trapping silicone if you can keep from doing so. Give that 2 or 3 spins there, 2 or 3 wraps. Moving right along, I've got about a 5-inch piece of brown round rubber. Place that on. I'm going to bring the lip down so I can catch it with the thread. And then as I bring it over, that longer piece is gonna fold over and flap over where I started. Just makes for convenient, kind of covers up everything, and it gives you a little bit more material on the top of the jig here, right? So it's going to be sitting like that. So I've got just a little bit of overlap rubber on the top as it would sit on the ground, which I like. I like that extra profile right there. If I'm going to have any extra material, I kind of like it to be on the top. Assuming that that looks good, I'll go ahead and flip it back over and put these guys in there. Yeah, it's a little long on the top, so let's adjust that. So back that off and pull this backwards just a hair. Redo. There, now let's check it. There we go. See how they're about even? I like that, looks good. Let's cinch it down. Again, hold it while you cinch it. Make sure that you don't get it to roll on you. And now we want to get some good clean thread wraps, but you got to take your time. If you go too fast and you try to take too much of a swath, you'll end up with something like that, right? Where you trap some of this rubber. So don't do that. Just kind of keep your thread pressured against the wall that you're creating with that rubber, and just slowly work it back. And go to the other side, slowly work it back. It's good to kind of take a look as you go, make sure the thread wraps are clean. These are looking good. And that's all we need. So get our whip finishes in here. That was 5. Should be more than enough. As always, we will be sealing these threads with some Loon water-based head cement, just to lock them in place. And now the only thing left to do is to cut these guys free. Pretty simple process. You guys will see that throughout the week. You can get as fancy with these as you want by adding less than a tab or breaking up the tabs and adding some highlights and details if you want, which we'll do eventually, but most of the patterns are pretty simple, and they just take 2 full pads, or tabs rather, of silicone and then some round rubber to finish. With the round rubber, that's a lot, right? So I'm going to break that into 3. And then with any round rubber, you pull that back against the pressure on the jig, on the head here. Pull that back, and way back here, cut it slowly. If you try to pull back too much at a time, it won't separate. If you cut too quick, oftentimes it won't separate. If you don't pull back far enough and don't get a good enough stretch, it won't separate. So take your time. A full tab broken into 3s, in my experience, has been the butter zone. And there we go. Nice and clean. Pull that back, and this pattern, I'll show you the finished product here in a minute, but this pattern gets a 2-tone. You can do one of 2 things. You can do a pure brown FG30 weed guard, or you can do one of these 2 tones that has a little bit of orange in with the brown. Looks super good. Now obviously I would take that and glue it in, or recently I've been using 5-minute or 30-minute epoxy. It dries clear. You don't get any risk of the haze on top that you can get sometimes with super glue. But for the sake of what the build looks like. There you go. Well, there she is, all done. Man, I love this pattern. That orange, just looks good, doesn't it? And that metallic copper and different things going on in the skirt. Of course, the rubber is going to give you that flare. These are fish catchers, I'm telling you. I've got pictures from all over the nation, from south to north, guys catching smallmouth on them, largemouth. They just flat work. So day 1 is in the books. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Look forward to day 2 tomorrow. I do appreciate you guys watching. Thanks for coming along with me. And until then, I'll see you guys in the shop.